Alright, well, you guys know that Diablo 3 is down. I'm having a ton of fun with it, and I gotta stop playing it so much to do other things, but I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. I don't think every single thing in the world is a conspiracy theory, but if you think about it, the way life works, do you guys notice that there's a lot of things that happen to certain people? Like you got, say, certain, countries in Africa are always starving. I don't know how many thousands of kids die every day from starvation or war or poverty but then you look around the world and there's a lot of weird shit going on. Like, for instance, the statistic says with doctors, because their handwriting is so bad, 8,000 people die every year just from getting the wrong prescription. So think about that for a second. Does that mean 8,000 doctors are losing their practicing license every year? So how does that work? Do they go to jail? Do they get a pass? Do they say, oh, don't do that again? Like, the way I look at life right now, everyone says we're crazy overpopulated. Even at the way humans are killing each other, dying in stupid accidents, war, famine, our population is still exploding. So it almost looks like, conspiracy theory-wise, that there is some kind of thing at work to help depopulate the planet. Because if we weren't depopulating the planet as hard as we are, we'd have nothing left. We'd eat every single piece of food in the earth. So there could be some kind of thing that happens where 8,000 people should not die every year from getting the wrong prescription. Like, to me, that's one of the stupidest things. You just have to write a little more carefully. So it's almost, I'm not saying that there's some big body of work, like some government faction that's depopulating the world or something, but it really does seem like people die from a lot of stupid things. There's a lot of misdirection as far as don't drink and drive. Well, you're not supposed to, and basic human psychology says when somebody tells you not to do something, you go and do it. So people die drinking and driving all the time. There's all these stupid things that happen in life that people just die from, and it's completely unnecessary, So to me, I'm not saying, like I said, there's not some Illuminati group or something like that. There could be a group that's running everything, but they have some boogeyman thing made up where they're the Illuminati. Because if you think about it, there is a lot of weird shit that goes on in the world. There's a lot of, say for instance, oil. All these politicians always say, we need to get off foreign oil. We never do. We never do. The reason why, say America, I just read this statistic on Wikipedia, so it may not be true, of course it is. 40% of the U.S.'s electricity is derived from coal. Coal is fucking 2-3 centuries old. That's the old school. That's how we did things back then. And you're telling me you guys are burning coal. Coal. Like, why are they burning coal? Because the infrastructure is already there, and they don't want to spend, they're making money off it, they don't want to spend money on a new technology. Same thing with oil. Oil is already set up. They're still pulling oil out of the ground like crazy. They're still making tons of money. Why would they switch? It's stupid because we could have been off oil. Oil could have just been a quick thing. Oh, okay, yeah, it's gross. Let's go to something else. Apparently, the electric car, I don't know if this is right, but this is what I read. The electric car was invented before the gas car, and in 100 years, they still can't make an electric car that works. Bullshit, they can't. I guarantee you, they can make one that'll work. You leave your car parked all day, it absorbs sunlight all day. Say if it's got solar panels or whatever. There's all these different things that we could have to fix things, but because the infrastructure is already there for existing and really out-of-date fucking technology, they decide, well, we're not going to switch because we're still making a ton of money on this. We've already spent the money to build refineries and all this other shit. And it frustrates me because we could have had so much if certain assholes weren't in place just collecting money, which to me, like, what end is that? Like, what, you keep collecting money and then what? You collect more money, then what? You collect more money. Like, doesn't that seem really stupid? Like, there's got to be a point where you say, look, there's got to be some reason you guys are collecting all this money, because then I think about different groups. Like, say if you had some Illuminati group doing the League of Shadows thing from Batman, where they're going to I thought, okay, say if there is some big group in power, why don't they just kill off 95% of the planet? Like, just, because the only reason we have so many workers and, say, cooks and all just stuff that, people that just run society, like the garbage men and all that. The only reason we need so many is because the population is so big. So you kill off 95% of the population and start over, where you go. And then I got worried about that for a minute because I thought there's no real reason to keep everybody alive. You know, if there was some group in power, they really could just infect everybody with some disease, and then some people have the antidote, and boom, everybody's dead. But then I thought, well, no one really wants to do that. They could have done it already if they wanted to. I mean, I really don't understand. I think there's a lot of social experiments going on in the background. There's a lot of fucking, I'm not paranoid. I don't think somebody's after me or whatever. But if you really think about it, there's so many unexplained deaths. There's so many just people disappear for no reason. Yeah, and I'm sure some people disappear because they were at the wrong place, wrong time, mouthed off to the wrong person, you know, got abducted, put in a human slave trade. But then there's also, like I said, all these deaths. There's so many deaths, and it almost looks like in every facet of life, they make everything fairly safe. But if you're someone of a certain intelligence level, like lower on the scale, you're going to do something stupid. They always leave that little percentage. Well, if you're stupid and you're horsing around in your car, here's what's going to happen. Boom, you're dead. That and the fact that the U.S. schools are going backwards as far as education is concerned. And why would you want to do that? Well, you make the next generation really stupid, and people that are uneducated generally make worse decisions. They tend to spend their money on stupider things, not really plan for their future, are more easily fooled by things like speeches, you know, like patriotic bullshit. And then you can control the population easier because, you know, I'm sure smart people can be very stupid too. I'm not saying that, but if you can drop the average intelligence level by so many points, that's way more people you'll be able to fool, way more people that will end up getting killed just for stupid reasons, blah, 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 blah. So it's fucked because there's so many things, like the whole September 11th thing, I still don't believe to this day happened. Not that, like it would have been easy, like I have all these people that constantly say, September 11th, I refuse to believe that the government did it. There's two possibilities with that, the way it happened. The government did it themselves, which I don't put anything past any government, or they knew it was coming and allowed it to happen. And is there really any difference between A and B? If you allowed it to happen, if you knew somebody was going to kill somebody and you had the power to stop them and you stepped aside and said, go for it, aren't you just as guilty? So this whole September 11th thing just never really seemed right to me right from the get-go. Just from how it happened, and the buildings were supposed to be able to take the planes, but didn't. One building, what was it, Building 7, blew up on its own. It blew up on its own. And then you dig a little deeper and you find out the guy who owned the Twin Towers apparently had to spend a shitload of money to get it upgraded because the codes were saying it wasn't up to snuff. He would have to spend a lot of money to fix it. And on top of that, a lot of people were told, don't go to work today because something bad's going to happen. So yeah, it's either that they did it themselves, which, like I said, you can't tell me a government wouldn't kill its own people. Bullshit, it wouldn't kill its own people. It kills its own people all the time. Every government. Or they just let it happen, which to me is just as bad. And then you start looking at the bigger picture. Okay, well, 3,000 lives ended that day. That was a fucked up day. I mean, I wasn't even involved and I felt weird about it. But it led to a massive amount of change in American policies, in the structure of the government, the power that the government has. Then they go launch this war on this country that had nothing to do with anything to take oil. And then I come to find out that, I can't remember. It's one of those whatever country we invaded. One of them has $1 trillion worth of lithium. And lithium is used in cell phones, which is a huge thing right now for, us, for Americans, Canadians, Europeans. It's a huge moneymaker. So all of a sudden you start looking a little bit and say, wait a minute. You had positive goals, but you ended up deviating completely, sending everybody on a wild goose chase to get these resources. So you kill and subjugate a people, kick down everybody's doors, scare the fuck out of them, shoot them, do whatever you want, treat them like fucking whatever, and then take the resources. It just, that shit bothers me. And you wonder why things happen, like why certain countries have a chip on their shoulder about the U.S. Well, when the U.S. does things like that, you just, Canada was involved in it too. I mean, Harper is a walking cancer. I fucking hate that guy. He's turning us into something we are not. he's doing the same thing up here that Bush did, which is to drop the education level and, give more power to the government. And so anyway, it's kind of hard to know what to believe because there's so many fucking weird things in the world. If you really think about it, Alex Jones, who I don't put any stock in, had said something, and I had thought this before, that the government has technology that's 30 or 40 years ahead of what we have. So if you go down that line, and I'm not saying I'm just hypothetically, you go down that line and you think, well, what happens if the computers that we have today were around in the 1950s, but they just, didn't tell anybody. But then they put out a computer, which is, a tick faster than the last one, and we're like, oh my God, new technology. But then they were like, we've had this technology for a long time. If that stands to reason, couldn't certain things that happen in life be just, I don't know, holograms, like everyone sees UFOs? We see videos of it. Couldn't that be a hologram, just to fuck with you? It's that Asimov thing with the Brave New World. You overload everybody with information all the time, keep them distracted, and then pull schemes on them while they're fucking completely stunned by all the shit that's going on. So that's what I mean. Like, you don't really know if it's the government or whatever group, maybe not even the government, maybe the government are dupes too. Some secret organization has crazy technology, and it just makes you wonder, like, how you don't really know. Like, as soon as research goes on behind closed doors, we don't know where they're at right now. They fucking might have technology that we don't even know, like, just crazy shit that you could never even think of. Like, the technology we have right now is a lot of it is entertainment, which is stupid. We have some good medical technology, but other than that, we have the Large Hadron Collider, and we have poverty and starvation. Like, the two don't really make sense. It's like, there's a fucking huge inequity right there. There's a huge imbalance. Food should be provided for everybody, but if you think about it, if everybody had food, water, shelter, our population would fucking explode overnight. Like, I really think that just to keep civilization going, there almost has to be some kind of balance to keep killing us, because we've cured a lot of the big killers, like, just, I don't know what used to kill everybody, like what, malaria is a big one, and malaria apparently is very easily cured. Kills 200 million people a year. But if they cured that, think of the explosion that we would have in a very short period of time. Like, our population would blow the fuck up. So it's fucked how the world works, how things are already in place to, keep people dying all the time, because we have to. If we didn't, Jesus Christ, our population would be, anyway. There's a whole bunch of shit going on in the background and you don't really know. And, I'm not saying my life is so scary, and, I've got a fucking super easy life compared to most people on the planet. Yeah, I'm not rich or anything, but if you really think about it, compared to somebody who's got a bayonet in their back, being forced to pull diamonds out of a fucking river, I think my life is pretty fucking good, and this is why we should be happy if you have a life, if you have a job, and you have a reasonable living. If the worst thing that happens to you today is your cell phone didn't work for an hour, then... Anyway, I'm just pouring all this shit out that I think about on a regular basis. All these just... they keep saying the government is not capable of smart enough to have something like September 11th happen, and I think that's bullshit. I think they've hidden many conspiracies. Very, very good. You pay off the right people, you threaten the right people, and you can easily contain information. So somebody on their deathbed will say, I'm going to die. And even then, this is another point Louis C.K. made in a video. He's saying that Donald Rumsfeld owes all this secret shit, and he won't even tell it on his deathbed because he realizes his family will be at risk, and that's probably something you would be told if you knew some hidden underground shit. They would say, even if you tell it on your deathbed, don't, because it will just kill your family. It's a good enough reason, right? Anyway, I'm just spitballing here. Just throwing out ideas, just things that seem weird to me.